Hello, this is the 1960 Evinrude 10 horsepower Sport Twin. It's a little better on this side. That side may have seen the sun a little bit more. I've been collecting the 1960 Evinrude series. I had the 3, the 5.5, and the 18, so this was the missing low-powered model. And it has taken a bit more work than it looked like it originally would. Its compression is kind of low. I was originally reading about 70 pounds on both cylinders, so I thought perhaps it had a bad head gasket. Replaced the head gasket. I could tell somebody else had already been in there before. No real bad scoring or anything. It just seems like it's probably a little bit worn. And I also discovered that after comparing my compression gauge to 2 other ones, it reads 15 pounds low. So this engine, maybe about 80 pounds of compression. Turns out there were a couple of problems that are common to this series because this choke knob is down here. It has kind of a funky linkage to get up to the carburetor. And there's a little plastic bit that retains the choke out when you pull it out. That was broken, which seems to be common, and it makes these very hard to start if you can't hold the choke on. It also had another common problem where corrosion built up inside this gear section here. It made the throttle stiff. The water pump was completely destroyed. Only one blade on the water pump. It did have spark. The guy said it ran, but it was only running on one cylinder. That turned out, fortunately, it was just corroded points. So cleaned up the points. I think I changed the condensers, and I've been running it. It's been doing okay. And then the prop hub spun out after the first video that I took with it. It was real slow that time, which apparently was that the hub was slipping already before it completely failed. So I got a new used Michigan PJ10 3-blade prop on it now, which should be essentially the same as the stock one. And then the last time I had it out, it was finally running pretty good. We were getting up to 17 miles an hour. But after I'd been running it a while, all of a sudden it would basically surge, slow down, and then pick back up, slow down and pick back up like it was running out of gas. So I had never been into the carburetor on this and assumed that it had to be full of trash. So today I finally pulled the carburetor completely apart, cleaned it out, put in a new OEM kit. Still had the original cork float, which looked pretty good. Probably could have just left that alone, but I was concerned there might be something stuck in the idle passages because this doesn't have quite as good of an idle as I would like. So I removed the top Welsh plug in the carburetor, so I had to break in a new carburetor kit. But there wasn't anything in there, and I think the less than totally ideal idle can probably just be put down to the less than ideal compression on this particular example, which, like I said, well, it's kind of low. It runs along quite well. It's pushing a 14-foot boat with one person in it right now, battery, gas tank. Overall rig probably weighs 600 pounds or so, including me. So anyway, I think I've run it about 4 miles out here today, and we've had none of that speeding up and slowing down problem that I was having last time. So I think I can finally declare this project officially complete. So let's see, there's a chance I can start this one-handed, but maybe not. Let's see. Oh, I do still need to try and source a replacement for the rubber grip. That's the last piece on this one. Nope, can't do it one-handed. Hang on one moment. Or even 2 moments. There we go. It helps if you don't decide to try and choke the try the choke and then flood the engine. So this is how it's idling now. Oh, the one other thing I forgot was that the thermostat on this was completely bad. And originally it didn't pump any water, which, like I said, the water pump only had one vein left on it. It's the worst one I've seen, but we've got good water flow now. Checked it with my infrared temp gun. Now that I have the new 145 degree thermostat in here, it seems like we're running about that. Right at the spark plugs on the least cooled part of the head, we're at about 155. And I would say that it does seem to give it a better idle, waste a little bit less fuel than the ones that don't have the thermostat. So, let's try reverse. Not very fast reverse on this model. It does work. We are moving, but not very fast. Neutral. And it's better to slow them down as much as you can when you shift. So we do have a pretty good idle in gear. Like it to be just a little bit smoother, but like I said, this engine is, let's see, 65 years old this year, and it does have some miles on it, it seems. Get pointed the right direction. And here we go. there you have the 1960 Evinrude 10. If you like the 1960, if you look back on my channel, you can find the 5.5 version, which is even nicer original than this one. Hopefully soon I'll get the 18 and the 3 running as well, which aren't quite as nice as this one cosmetically, but they do have better compression. And for those of you who may have noticed, this particular lake is covered in buoys. That's because they regularly do rowing competitions here. However, there is not a rowing competition or practice right now, so I am not out here irritating people running around making waves. Thanks for visiting. Oh, and this model does also have the ignition stop button. One more addendum, because I realized that I forgot a few things. Like I said, this engine had quite a few things going on with it. If you'll notice, this recoil housing is actually a slightly different color than the rest of the engine. It probably came off of a 1959, which is a little, or 58, which is a little bit different color. And that was because when I got it, for some reason, one of these mounting legs was broken off, and the whole starter was flopping around. So I got a new housing from someone else in the Antique Outboard Club at a club meet, which, by the way, if you're interested in old engines, you should definitely join and attend. It's a great way to meet friends and a good way to get reasonable parts. So I put a new spring in the housing while I had it apart. And then the other thing that happened was that the fuel lines were bad, as well as the fuel pump. And there hasn't been a pump kit available for these in a really long time. And the recommendation from OMC was to replace them with the more modern square type pump. But those pumps new are pretty expensive now, and while there are some aftermarket ones from Amazon and eBay, the reputation is rather mixed. So after asking around with, again, some acquaintances in the club, there's a gentleman who's been making gasket kits for various things, and another friend of mine sent him a new old stock, one of this style of pump, and he cut a brand new gasket kit and put it on eBay for me. So if you have one of these same kind of pumps, look on eBay. There is a kit available for them now. Now, admittedly, I borrowed this pump from my 1960 18, and it is not been rebuilt with the new rebuild kit. That is yet another project. So hopefully I will get that done soon and get it on the 18, and we will get a review on how all that works. But it looks really good, and he uses real fuel pump diaphragm material, which is another thing to say just for history's sake. The 1960 is the first year that Johnson and Evinrude had a fuel pump on this size of engine. In 59, they still had pressure tanks. 1959, which is essentially this same engine except with slightly different decals. 1959 was the Golden Jubilee model of Evinrude. But 1959, this model, but with different stickers, is the first fiberglass hood for an Evinrude. So those are some of the unique features of this one. First year, the fuel pump. Second year, the fiberglass hood. And I don't remember the exact year, but it's pretty early on in them having a thermostat as well. Thank you for visiting.